This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
In COVID, we saw jurisdictions around the world all independently having to decide on approving different vaccines, different treatments for COVID, which would seem to me a rather inefficient process. I don't know about you, but working as a doctor, one of the wonderful things I found about medicine is it's universal. People all around the world suffer from basically the same problems. When you open up someone, they're exactly the same. And now I'm going to ask you a bit of a political question. Given the delays in getting approval and the delays in smaller countries like Canada, which fall behind bigger countries like the FDA, which has more people, more ability to probably rapidly assess what drugs should be approved, does it make sense that every country has its own regulatory process? Do you think there's that we ought to be considering more of a global approach in terms of an international regulatory system to test and approve new vaccines and drugs, so that when we have something like COVID again, or there's new outbreaks of antimicrobial resistance, that we're better able to respond rapidly globally to these problems?
I think it's very logical. As you said, medicine is universal, and we read the research from our colleagues from everywhere. I think it's very important that within each country we have an entity that can be le garant, like Health Canada, that whatever is sold and approved in Canada is good for Canadian children and all Canadians. But what we're calling for is enhanced conversations and collaborations, exactly, and how can, whether it has to be only one jurisdiction or many, but facilitated jurisdiction, I think is beyond my competency to answer, but certainly we need to help each other, and probably this is what happened also during the pandemic, but Dr. Quash's expertise on what happened with the vaccine approbation between all the countries is she's going to be better than me to answer that one.
Well, maybe before turning to Dr. Quoc-Tan about the same question, WHO is currently in the process of developing a new international treaty on control of infectious disease. Do you think that that should be something that perhaps is included in that treaty? So I'll ask you first, Dr. Nguyen, and then I'll turn to Dr. Quoc-Tan for the same questions.
So certainly, I think approval of medication needs to be accelerated, and sharing expertise. And in fact, children from Canada are recruited for medications that end up being approved in the US, but not in Canada. So for the initial studies, but then it's not approved in Canada. So it speaks to itself that we need to have some collaboration. To what extent, I'll leave that to the political aspects.
Dr. Quoc-Tan, the same question and response.
Yeah, so I agree that more collaboration is needed. I still have to say, though, that during the pandemic, Canada had approvals almost at the same time as the US. And the reason why sometimes we make different recommendations is also based on our population, on our epidemiology, and other factors. But in terms of Health Canada, I have to say that they were quite expedient during the pandemic. They worked rapidly. They changed their process. They allowed NACI to be able to look at the data at the same time they were. And so, yes, collaboration, absolutely. I know that EMA in Europe has a collaborations between all European countries. Still, once EMA makes a recommendation, each country still has to review it. As Dr. Nguyen said, I still think we need to make sure that what we approve for our country is what we want. And the legal implication and the jurisdiction might be different. So agree with collaboration. But again, I'm not a regulator, so might as well ask Health Canada.
Sean, how much time do I have left?
20 seconds. You want to make a final comment?
Okay, no.